The Galactic Council did not fear many things. It had endured supernova plagues, machine uprisings, and the slow collapse of entire stellar empires. It governed through logic, precedent, and overwhelming knowledge gathered over millions of cycles. Every anomaly had been studied, every threat categorized, except one: Earth. It was, by every measurable standard, insignificant, a mid-sized planet orbiting an unremarkable star on the outer edge of a quiet spiral arm. Its dominant species, humans, were technologically immature, politically fractured, and dangerously emotional. They had not yet achieved faster-than-light travel. They had not formally joined the Council. By all conventional metrics, they were centuries away from relevance. And yet, Earth was classified under the rarest designation in Council archives: untouchable. The classification wasn't given lightly. Entire civilizations had been erased for less. The reasoning dated back thousands of cycles, long before humanity even knew it was being watched. The first recorded incident involved a scouting vessel from a now-extinct species known as the Ketheri. They had approached Earth in secret, intending to harvest biological samples. The mission was routine, standard procedure for emerging worlds. The vessel entered orbit. It never left. No distress signal, no debris, no energy spike. It simply vanished. At the time, the Council dismissed it as a navigational failure. Then it happened again. A second species, the Ralthuan Collective, attempted atmospheric infiltration centuries later. Their operatives were among the most advanced infiltrators in the galaxy, capable of mimicking native biology down to the molecular level. They successfully landed. Within days, all contact ceased. Their ships remained in orbit, awaiting extraction that never came. When a retrieval team finally arrived, they found the vessels intact, but empty, not abandoned, clean. No signs of struggle, no biological traces, no explanation. After that, the Council began to pay attention. More incidents followed, always subtle, always untraceable. Small expeditions disappearing, data corrupted beyond recovery, advanced probes returning with impossible readings, or not returning at all. And through it all, humanity remained unaware. They continued their wars, their progress, their endless internal conflicts, never realizing that something far larger was quietly observing, and occasionally erasing. The Council convened an emergency session after the fifth incident. Patterns had emerged. Every species that interfered with Earth, no matter how advanced, suffered consequences that defied logic. Not immediate destruction, not open retaliation. Something quieter, something precise. Entire research divisions collapsing due to accidents. Political leaders vanishing without cause. Systems failing in ways that could not be replicated or explained. It was not war. It was correction. No source was ever identified. No weapon was ever detected. But the outcome was always the same. Interfere with Earth. And something interfered back. That was when the Council made its decision. The directive was simple, unambiguous, absolute. Do not approach Earth without authorization. Do not interfere with its development. Do not provoke humanity. The order was distributed across every known system, encoded into diplomatic law, and enforced with the highest level of authority. Most species obeyed without question, some out of respect, others out of caution, and a few out of fear, because in a galaxy where everything could be explained, predicted, and controlled, Earth was the one place where the rules no longer applied. Rocket. The Virex Dominion did not believe in fear. They believed in dominance, earned through adaptation, perfected through conquest. Where other species hesitated, the Dominion advanced. Where others saw risk, they saw opportunity. Entire sectors had fallen under their control, not through brute force alone, but through calculated evolution, reshaping themselves to overcome any resistance. To them, the Galactic Council's warning about Earth was not wisdom. It was weakness. A primitive species protected by superstition, High Strategist Carvex declared, his voice echoing through the war chamber. The Council has grown complacent. Around him, towering figures of the Dominion's command caste watched in silence, their forms shifting subtly as their biology adjusted to the sterile atmosphere. Massive holographic projections displayed Earth, its continents, its oceans, its sprawling networks of human civilization. "So this is the untouchable world," one commander muttered. "Divided nations. Constant conflict. They can't even govern themselves." Carvex's expression did not change. "Exactly," he said. "Which makes them predictable." The Dominion had studied humanity for decades, quietly, from a distance. They had observed wars sparked by ideology, alliances broken over resources, entire populations manipulated through information. Humans were resilient, yes, but they were fragmented, and fragmentation, to the Dominion, was the greatest weakness of all. "We will not invade," Carvex continued. "Not at first. We will guide their collapse." The strategy was elegant. Phase 1. Destabilization. Human satellites began to fail, subtly at first. Communication networks experienced unexplained interference. Power grids flickered under anomalies that engineers couldn't trace. Governments blamed one another, each suspecting sabotage from their rivals. Phase 2. Infiltration. The Dominion released engineered pathogens into Earth's biosphere, precision-crafted organisms designed not to kill immediately, but to spread confusion. Symptoms varied. Diagnoses conflicted. Panic grew. Humans responded as expected. They argued. They accused. They fractured further. Dominion analysts watched with quiet satisfaction as global systems strained under pressure. Economic markets faltered. Military forces shifted into defensive postures. Borders tightened. "It begins," one observer noted. But Carvex remained still. "Not yet," he said, because something wasn't aligning with projections. Humanity was destabilizing, but not collapsing. Not the way other species did. Instead of total breakdown, there were pockets of coordination, unusual cooperation between rival nations, rapid scientific collaboration across political divides, information moving faster than the Dominion's models predicted. "They're adapting," an analyst said, confusion creeping into their tone. Carvex narrowed his eyes. "Of course they are," he replied. "All species adapt. It will not save them." Phase 3 was initiated. Covert Dominion operatives, biologically altered to mimic human physiology, were deployed to key positions across the planet. Governments, research institutions, defense networks. They would accelerate the collapse from within. But within days, contact with the operatives became inconsistent. Not lost, not destroyed, just disrupted. "Signal interference?" one commander asked. "No," the technician responded slowly. "It's selective." Reports came in fragments, conflicting, incomplete. One operative transmitted a final message before going silent. "They know." The words echoed through the chamber. Carvex stood. "That's impossible," another commander said. "We were undetected." But the data did not lie. Across Earth, something had changed. Human systems, once chaotic and disconnected, were beginning to synchronize in ways the Dominion could not predict. Communication channels went dark, not from failure, but by design. Military movements ceased broadcasting entirely. Civilian networks fell silent. The planet was going quiet. Too quiet. Carvex turned back to the projection of Earth, his confidence unshaken, but no longer absolute. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. "If they believe they can resist." His voice hardened. "We will remind them why no species survives defiance." High above the unsuspecting world, Dominion warships began to mobilize. And for the first time since the operation began, the Dominion was no longer entirely certain it was in control. Rocket. The Dominion expected chaos. They had engineered it perfectly, fractured communication, destabilized governments, infiltrated institutions. Every model predicted the same outcome: collapse within weeks, surrender within days after orbital superiority was established. Instead, Earth went silent. At first, Dominion analysts celebrated what they believed was success. Human broadcasts disappeared. Military frequencies dropped to zero. Civilian data streams, once a constant flood of noise, vanished almost overnight. "It's happening faster than expected," one analyst reported. "Total systems failure." But something about the silence felt wrong. "Run deeper scans," High Strategist Carvex ordered. They did. What they found made no sense. The infrastructure was still there. Power grids remained active. Satellites were operational. Military installations showed no signs of destruction. Humanity hadn't collapsed. It had withdrawn. "They're not failing," another analyst said slowly. "They're disconnecting." Carvex stepped closer to the central display, watching as the data reassembled into a pattern none of them had predicted. Global conflict indicators, once constant, had dropped to zero. No border skirmishes. No internal uprisings. No competing broadcasts. For the first time in their recorded history, humanity was unified. Not publicly, not visibly, but undeniably. Hidden beneath the silence, encrypted signals began to appear, too complex for Dominion systems to decode in real time. Bursts of communication flickered across the planet, linking continents, governments, and military networks into something far more cohesive than before. "They've centralized command," a technician whispered. "That's not possible," another replied. "Their political structures have been bypassed," Carvex finished. And that was when he understood. The Dominion had studied humanity as it presented itself, divided, emotional, inefficient. They had never considered what humanity would become when those limitations were removed. Deep beneath Earth's surface, in places the Dominion had never detected, systems were activating. Technologies long theorized, but never revealed, were being brought online. Experimental defense grids, autonomous response networks, weapons platforms designed not for war between nations, but for something beyond. Humanity had prepared for extinction scenarios, and now it was executing them. "What are they planning?" one commander asked. Carvex didn't answer immediately, because for the first time he didn't know. "Deploy the fleet," he said at last. "We end this before they complete whatever this is." The Dominion armada moved into position, hundreds of warships descending toward Earth, their weapons primed, their shields impenetrable by any known human technology. They entered orbit expecting resistance. They found none. No defensive fire. No interception. No response at all. The planet below remained silent, still, waiting. Scans show no active weapon systems, a technician reported. No targeting locks. No movement. A ripple of unease spread through the command deck. "This is a trick," one officer said. "It has to be." Carvex stared at the blue world beneath them, its calm surface betraying nothing of what lay below. "No," he said quietly. "This is not a trick." He leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "This is preparation." Seconds passed. Then the first Dominion ship vanished. No explosion. No warning. No energy signature. It was simply gone. Alarms erupted across the fleet. "What happened?" someone shouted. "Unknown," the technician replied. "There's no." Another ship disappeared. Then another. Panic spread as systems failed to register any form of attack. No weapons detected. No incoming fire. Carvex felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. For the first time in his long career. He had no countermeasure. Because this wasn't a battle. This was something else entirely. And as more ships began to vanish without a trace, the Dominion finally understood. Earth hadn't been silent out of weakness. It had been silent because it was deciding how to respond. Rocket. Panic was something the Virex Dominion had engineered into other species countless times. They had studied it, weaponized it, perfected the art of turning order into chaos. They had never expected to feel it themselves. "Maintain formation," High Strategist Carvex commanded, his voice cutting through the rising alarms. "This is an unknown weapon. Adapt and respond." But there was nothing to respond to. No energy signatures. No targeting vectors. No detectable emissions of any kind. Another warship vanished. Then two more. Entire sections of the fleet began to disappear in sequence, as if something unseen was selecting targets with deliberate precision. "It's not random," a systems analyst said, their voice shaking. "They're prioritizing command vessels, coordination hubs, anything critical." Carvex clenched his claws. "Deploy countermeasures. Full spectrum scanning. Flood the area with detection fields." Orders were executed instantly. The Dominion fleet unleashed waves of scanning pulses, saturating orbit with every known detection method. Nothing. No anomaly. No distortion. No trace of an attacker. And yet the ships kept vanishing. "It's impossible," one officer whispered. "No," Carvex said, his tone hardening despite the uncertainty creeping into his mind. "It's unfamiliar. There is a difference." But even as he spoke, another vessel, one of their largest carriers, blinked out of existence mid-transmission. Silence followed. Not just from the ship. From everything it had been connected to. Entire command chains collapsed instantly, as if they had never existed. The Dominion fleet began to fracture. Without coordination, ships broke formation. Some attempted to retreat. Others fired blindly into empty space, hoping to strike something, anything. But there was nothing to fight. And that was the horror of it. "This is not a defensive system," Carvex realized aloud. "It's selective removal." Before anyone could respond, a new alert flooded the command deck. "Strategist, Urgent transmission from Dominion Prime. The central display shifted, revealing chaos on their homeworld. Explosions tore through orbital shipyards. Defense grids turned inward, firing on their own installations. Communications networks collapsed under cascading failures. "How is this possible?" a commander demanded. "We are light years away." Carvex stared at the feed, his mind racing. "This isn't localized," he said slowly. "It's everywhere." Reports poured in from across Dominion space. Colonies losing control of infrastructure. Military outposts going dark. Entire fleets stranded as navigation systems failed simultaneously. The same pattern. Precise. Coordinated. Unstoppable. "They're attacking our systems," an analyst said. "Not just our ships." "No," Carvex corrected, his voice quieter now. "They're attacking our weaknesses." Everything the Dominion had built, their reliance on adaptive biology, their interconnected command structures, their predictive strategies, was being used against them. Every strength turned into a vulnerability. "How do they know us this well?" someone asked. No one had an answer, because the truth was far worse than any of them wanted to admit. Humanity hadn't just reacted. It had studied them. Every signal they transmitted. Every pathogen they deployed. Every pattern in their strategy. And in the silence before the attack, humanity had learned. The Dominion had always prided itself on evolution, on becoming whatever it needed to conquer. But humanity didn't evolve to match its enemy. It evolved to understand it. And once it understood, it ended the fight before it truly began. Another wave of disappearances rippled through the fleet. Carvex watched as his armada, once unstoppable, was reduced to fragments of confusion and fear. For the first time in Dominion history, they were not the hunters. They were being erased. Not out of rage. Not out of vengeance. But with something far more terrifying. Precision. Rocket. The war ended before most of the galaxy realized it had begun. Where the Virex Dominion once stood, spanning systems, commanding fleets, shaping entire ecosystems to its will, there was now only fragmentation. Pockets of survivors drifted in silence, cut off from one another, their once perfect coordination shattered beyond repair. No final battle. No decisive clash. Just absence. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session, every major species represented, every observer feed locked onto the remnants of Dominion space. For the first time in recorded history, the chamber was not filled with debate, but with quiet. "What are we witnessing?" one delegate asked, their voice barely above a whisper. "Correction," another replied. No one argued. They had all seen the data. The Dominion had not been destroyed through overwhelming force. There were no signs of massive fleet engagements. No evidence of planet-wide bombardment. Instead, it had been dismantled. System by system. Chain by chain. Weakness by weakness. As if something had reached into the very structure of their empire and simply removed the pieces that mattered. "Have they stopped?" a representative from the outer colonies asked. The answer came from the Council's Central Intelligence Corps. Yes. Across Dominion territory, the chaos had ceased as abruptly as it had begun. Systems stabilized. Surviving infrastructure remained intact. Entire populations untouched. It was not extermination. It was restraint. A long silence followed. Then a new signal appeared. Origin, Earth. Every screen in the council chamber shifted instantly. the transmission overriding all channels without resistance. No encryption. No distortion. Just a single, clear broadcast. A human stood at the center of the frame. Unarmed. Unarmored. Calm. Behind them, Earth rotated slowly in the void. Blue, quiet, unchanged. "We are aware," the human began, their voice steady, carrying across the vast chamber as if they were standing within it, "of the actions taken against our world. No anger. No threat. Just certainty. We did not seek conflict. We did not initiate hostility. And we did not respond immediately, because we chose to understand." Several council members shifted uneasily. They had seen what that understanding looked like. When that understanding was complete, the human continued. "We acted." A pause. Not for effect, but for emphasis. The Virex Dominion is no longer a threat. The statement was simple, final, and entirely unquestionable. Another pause followed, heavier this time. Then came the words that would echo across the galaxy for generations. "There exists a standing directive within your council." Several delegates straightened. They knew what was coming. "It is correct." The human's gaze did not waver. "Do not interfere with Earth. Do not provoke humanity. Do not attempt to control what you do not yet understand." The chamber remained silent. No one dared interrupt. Then, the final line, delivered without hostility, without emotion, but with absolute clarity. "The treaty still stands." The transmission ended. No flourish. No lingering signal. Just silence. For a long time, no one in the Galactic Council spoke, because now they understood what the directive had always meant. It was not a diplomatic precaution.